The morning I found my bridge destroyed, I was carrying 2 bales of hay across a ravine to feed the horses in the eastern pasture. Except there was no bridge anymore. Just splinters scattered across the creek bed like broken bones, and a gleaming new sign that read, Prairie Wind Estates, private property, and no trespassing. I stood there for a full minute, hay bales still balanced on my shoulders, staring at where my grandfather's bridge had stood for 43 years. The bridge he built with his own hands. The bridge that connected the 2 halves of my ranch across Miller's Creek. My name is Sarah Brennan, and my family has owned Brennan Ranch since 1947. We're talking 300 acres of rolling Texas grassland, split down the middle by a natural creek that runs year-round. That bridge was a lifeline of my operation. The only way to move equipment, livestock, and feed between the 2 sides of my property without a 5-mile detour on public roads. I dropped the hay bales and pulled out my phone, my hands shaking with rage as I dialed the number on the sign. Prairie Wind Estates HOA, this is Brittany speaking. The voice was aggressively cheerful. This is Sarah Brennan. Someone just destroyed a bridge on my property, and your sign is all over the wreckage. Oh, Brittany's voice shifted to that particular tone of fake sympathy that means trouble. Yes, Ms. Brennan, we've been trying to reach you. The board made a decision to remove that unsafe structure last week. It was a hazard to our community. A hazard? I could barely get the words out. That bridge was on MY land, crossing MY Creek. Actually, if you check the new survey, you'll find that Miller's Creek is the natural boundary between your property and Prairie Wind Estates. The bridge was technically built over shared waterway rights, and since it didn't meet county code, that bridge has been there for over 4 decades. Grandfathered structures still need to meet basic safety standards, Ms. Brennan. We had an engineer assess it. The report is available if you'd like to review it. The board felt it was best to remove it before someone got hurt. We're very community safety oriented here at Prairie Wind. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Prairie Wind Estates had sprung up over the last 18 months like a suburban mushroom. Some developer had bought the Henderson property adjacent to mine and crammed 200 cookie-cutter homes onto what used to be decent ranch land. The HOA had formed 6 months ago, and since then, I'd gotten complaint letters about everything from my rooster crowing at dawn to the unsightly appearance of my barn. But destroying my bridge, that was war. I drove into town and went straight to the county clerk's office. Martha Simmons had worked there for 30 years and knew every property line in the county by heart. Sarah Brennan, as I live and breathe, she said, looking up from her computer, what brings you in? I need every deed, survey, and water rights document for my ranch and the Prairie Wind development. Martha's eyebrows went up, but she didn't ask questions. 2 hours later, I walked out with a folder 3 inches thick and a smile spreading across my face. The HOA had made a critical mistake. Yes, Miller's Creek technically formed the boundary between our properties. But what they didn't know, what their fancy lawyers and entitled board members had somehow missed, was that my family held the original water rights to that creek, dating back to 1952. According to Texas water law, I had exclusive rights to reasonable use of the water, including the right to maintain structures for agricultural purposes. More importantly, the creek actually flowed from a spring on my western pasture, ran through the ravine, and eventually fed into the public waterway 3 miles downstream. For about 200 yards, it crossed underneath what was now Prairie Wind's main access road before flowing past their development. I called my lawyer, Tom Hastings, and explained the situation. Sarah, what exactly are you planning? Tom asked, a note of concern in his voice. I'm planning to exercise my water rights. Agricultural purposes. There was a long pause. Sarah, Tom, they destroyed my bridge. They're making it impossible for me to run my ranch. I need to irrigate my southern pastures, and I need to do it now. It's completely legal. Another pause. Technically, yes, but then draw up the paperwork. I'm going to redirect Miller's Creek. The next morning, I had 3 excavators and a hydrologist on site. The plan was simple and absolutely legal. I was going to divert a significant portion of Miller's Creek into a new irrigation channel that would loop around my southern property. The channel would eventually reconnect with the main creek downstream, but the loop would significantly reduce the water flowing through Prairie Wind section. More specifically, it would turn the dried-up creek bed beneath their main access road into a muddy, impassable ditch during the rainy season, and it would drain the decorative creek view lots that they've been selling at premium prices. By noon, the excavators were carving a new path through my soil. By that evening, I'd redirected about 60% of the creek's flow. My phone started ringing the next day. Ms. Brennan, this is Gerald Whitmore, president of the Prairie Wind HOA board. I held the phone away from my ear. Good morning, Mr. Whitmore. What have you done? Our access road is flooding. The creek bed is a swamp. Do you have any idea the property damage? I'm exercising my water rights for agricultural irrigation, Mr. Whitmore. It's completely legal. I filed all the proper paperwork with the county. You can't just, we'll sue. You're welcome to try. My lawyer has copies of all the water rights documents dating back 70 years. I own that water, Mr. Whitmore. I can use it however I need for agricultural purposes. This is revenge. This is because of the bridge. The bridge you illegally destroyed on my property? No, sir. This is irrigation. The timing is purely coincidental. I hung up and stood on my porch, watching the sun set over my newly designed water channel. It was working beautifully. The pastures were getting the irrigation they needed, and according to my hydrologist, the reduced flow through Prairie Wind section will create exactly the problems I'd hoped for. The HOA's lawyer sent a cease and desist letter. My lawyer sent back a 20-page response complete with historical water rights documentation, agricultural necessity statements, and expert testimony about irrigation needs. The letter concluded with a helpful note that we'd be happy to discuss the matter if the HOA would like to negotiate about bridge access. 2 weeks later, Gerald Whitmore showed up at my ranch. He climbed out of his Lexus, picked his way across my gravel driveway in Italian leather shoes, and stood stiffly on my porch. Up close, he looked tired, defeated. Ms. Brennan, Sarah, can we talk? I invited him in, poured 2 glasses of sweet tea, and waited. The board had an emergency meeting, he said finally. We got 18 homeowners who can't access their properties properly because of the mud. Our main road is cracking from the water damage. The creek view lots are worthless now, just dried up ditches. That's unfortunate, I said evenly. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. We made a mistake with the bridge. I see that now. I'm new to the board, and I trusted the previous president when he said it was a safety issue. I didn't know the history. Your HOA destroyed something my grandfather built. You made it impossible for me to work my ranch efficiently, and you didn't even have the courtesy to ask first. He nodded slowly. You're right. We were wrong. What would it take to restore the creek flow? I pulled out a folder I prepared. These are my terms. The HOA pays for a new bridge, proper engineering, county permits, the works. It gets built to my specifications. You put in writing that you'll never interfere with my ranch operations again. No more complaint letters about roosters or barn aesthetics. And you pay for all my legal fees and the cost of this irrigation project. Gerald reviewed the papers, his jaw tight. This is going to cost us over $100,000. Should have thought about that before you tore down my bridge. He sat there for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. I need to call an emergency board meeting. 3 days later, I had a signed agreement and a check for $25,000 up front, with construction beginning within 30 days. I redirected Miller's Creek back to its original path that afternoon. The new bridge was completed 6 weeks later. It's beautiful, engineered steel and treated timber, built to last a century, wide enough for my tractor, strong enough for anything I need to haul across. They even put a small plaque on it. Brennan Bridge 2024. Built in honor of the Brennan family legacy. I didn't ask for the plaque, but I appreciate the gesture. Gerald Whitmore stops by occasionally now, usually to ask about ranch life or to ensure there are no other misunderstandings brewing. He's learning that out here, land rights and history mean something. They mean everything. I stand on my new bridge sometimes, in the early morning, watching the creek flow beneath it just like it always has. The horses graze in the eastern pasture, accessible again. My operation runs smoothly, and Prairie Wind Estates has learned a valuable lesson about respecting the people who were here first. Sometimes the old ways are worth fighting for, and sometimes when someone tears down your bridge, the best revenge is remembering that the water was always yours to begin with. You just have to know how to use it.